Turn down sound, and should be good. Okay. I'm once again not sure what I'm planning on doing. Let's look at this angle. Move this a little back. A little bit late because I was having lunch, a late lunch, because I had went by the grocery store to get some stuff. Came home. I like showering after going out because I've been in that habit now. Even though I don't think it's the most likely means of spreading anything. I am recording. Okay. And then took a shower and then had lunch, but I was distracted with some emails and some other stuff and needed to have some lunch. I had a late breakfast. I had pancakes and I felt very sluggish after that. Because they were good pancakes. Some were chocolate chip, which meant a lot of sugar. It doesn't help that I also put whipped cream on them. So I had my fair share of sugary bits. Hello, Secta. I do not have any plan for what today might be. So I'm just going to try sketching and painting and see where it takes me. If you have any thoughts, suggestions, or ideas, feel free to throw them out. May or may not see or take those, but it'll be participatory on your end to some degree. Do I have any loose paper? Turn this guy sort permanently, so I can be grabbing some loose leaf printer paper. Okay. Sorry, I saw some. Frame. Move that slightly out of frame. Okay. I don't know. What should I work on? I had the idea at some point of trying to illustrate how CRT TVs worked and how that information is processed and can be manipulated or changed, but I don't know if that's the most interesting thing, and it's not terribly different from me talking about slit scan stuff, but I'll probably revisit a lot of processes over time. I ate quickly and I have a little bit of hiccups. You can see how my hair is getting long enough to curl a little bit. I don't know. Let's just talk about how CRT TVs work, and maybe that'll lead me somewhere. So, cathode ray tube is what CRT stands for. That's what a tube TV is. Predates LCD and plasma screens. How it functions in a black and white situation is you have a tube, a glass tube that has an electron gun at the back, and then two electromagnets. Hello, Marine. Two electromagnets, one that pulls horizontally and one that pulls vertically. And the electron gun fires a single point at any given time that's being pulled by this electromagnet according to signal inputs left and right and up and down, and it gets pulled across the screen and pushing up against, I believe it's a phosphorus coated interior of this tube, and it's shooting it and it's being pulled left and right, and then after it gets pulled here, it quickly comes back to the start and goes again and is pulled slightly down in this direction, and you create a pattern going and drawing these many lines, and you draw something, I forget how it technically works out, but effectively you have 480 lines this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, blah, blah, blah. And it's pulled across at varying amounts of energy coming from this gun, so it's different lightness. So it's brighter or darker. Pulling at different intensities, pulled across here, and you create a pattern and a discernible image by going across at such a speed that it's unperceptible to the human eye. It does that 480 times, then once it reaches down here, cuts right back up here, and it starts over again. It does that 30 times every second. So the fidelity of the signal that's coming in has to be pretty clear and understood. It's not as much information as you're having sent to your phone right now, even because your phone, even like the lowest resolution phone that you have, isn't going to be 480 lines, and it's treated differently. And that's why with old CRT monitors, if you have a TV signal that's bad, sometimes the image will sort of skip halfway up, and you'll have what looks like essentially the same image halfway across on either side. That's because the signal that's instructing or conveying the images is shifted. It's not in sync with this sort of bit. My understanding from what I've watched from YouTube, people explaining things about how signals work is typically there's like a range for how bright any given section of the visible area of the screen is. And there's a signal that, let's say that those values are for how black it gets. Let's say that 10 is the darkest black and 100 is the lightest white. This would be black on the screen visually. Then you can have a value that's lower than the darkest black that would be used in the screen, and that is existing in this sort of space. It's value that isn't in the visual section, and that helps the TV to understand where the top and bottom is meant to be. If you have issues with horizontal hold, where this signal isn't lining up all on here, you'll end up with a distorted image that is pulled in a direction. So in principle, there's a lot of similarities to when you scan something. So if you watched my live stream on Slit Scan or have seen stuff of that, because the time is broken apart and it's not technically one image, it's not like something coming from film, where film has a series of images in sequence that has light projected through where the full image is on there at any given time. The image is separated because it has to be converted into a signal. So when you have that signal being interpreted slightly incorrectly, you have distortions that take place. So if you ever see stuff, most of my experience with this sort of distortion is if you ever work with an old TV where you have to personally like adjust dials and stuff to get it in sync, where it understands where the top of each image is meant to be and where the sides of each image is meant to be. You'll have it distorted. But if you ever open up a VCR when you're working on it and you touch things or adjust them or mess with the speed of the tape as it's going along, you'll end up with these sort of distortions because the image is being read and displayed according to lines that go horizontally. So if the time gets shifted or pushed in one way or the other, the images get distorted. That sort of direction. So maybe I will mess with illustrating things that have some of those distortions. Or do I have any... I don't like just continuing to go back to the same printouts that I have. Do I have larger, older ones? Maybe this just ends up being like a physical slit scan deal. Yeah, I got some weirdly intimate large photos of myself. Even wearing headphones in this one. Okay, I will be right back. I do have a ruler here, but it's not quite as long as I want it to be. Actually went ahead and grabbed my cutting mat as well. Okay, so I think what I actually might do is mess with this image, cutting it physically in a way that mimics an old CRT cathode ray tube display, and instead of just having it shift, I'm going to try sort of cutting and reassembling this 2 times. I have some tape here. This would be better if I had some packing tape, but I will make do. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this image every 1/2 inch, I guess. About every 1/2 inch. Shift it over, then cut at a harsh edge and reposition all the elements again at the far side, which is what would happen if you were had that sort of same push on a CRT monitor, because it doesn't just push off the edge. What happens is it pushes to this side if you were to have something distorted off the edge of the screen, and then it comes back to the other side, because you're just shifting this signal that's saying how bright or how dark, and you're pushing it to the next line. It's not just pushing it into the void. So let's see what it looks like when I just cut this up a bunch, but with some sort of organization to it, and then come back to it, maybe try tracing it and see how that works. Okay, that's the plan. So I'm going to first mark this off every 1/2 inch. I'm just going to jump into the middle of where the actual print area is. So that's about here. And I'm also going to go ahead and trim this down in the process. So every 1/2 inch. And I know that this is the sort of thing that ultimately would be easier to do in a digital space, but it's not as visually interesting, and you don't have as much of this physical connection to what is taking place in those digital spaces. So I'm interested in being able to physically convey a concept that helps you to better understand the things that you interact with on a given day, because there's so much information that's passing you by, and it's meant to be ignored. It's meant to, for the sake of me, I think I should probably number this in some way for my own sake. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Okay. There's so much information that's being passed literally through you at any given moment. that you're meant to ignore. If you were to pay attention to it all the time, it would be a terrible life experience. But so much information exists and passes by you, and it's being reinterpreted because it's a more effective way to transmit that information. You can travel across airwaves, radio signals, higher frequency signals, television broadcast. Well, not television broadcasts anymore, at least not in the US. I don't know internationally what the state of broadcast television is. In the US, I guess there are people who never really experienced true broadcast television. If you're under 12 years old. But even at that point, not too many people were really using broadcast television unless they were in areas that weren't using it. It used to be that television was broadcast on an analog signal. And then after that, you had cable come along. This might end up being a little uneven, I don't know. That's the sort of physical bits. Is the other side less torn up? Yeah, it is. I'm going to flip this, which isn't going to be fun. Okay. This side isn't quite as torn up. Okay, not going to do great. That's why I numbered these. Okay. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Okay. Hello, Sally. My cutting mat has been unevenly used, which means that the reverse has a lot more deep cuts into it. And it has grooves that can catch the blade and lead it in a direction. Okay, I am recording. There was a lot of talk and discussion that I would prefer not to lose. Big old guy. Easiest way to set this up on a grid will probably be just actually inverting this, because I'm going to have to tape the back. Or I can tape an edge, then flip it so you can see what's happening. For the moment, just going to leave that top bit. Okay. So now the plan is to, I guess, start about here and then just position. No, I can't do this on the edge. I'll show what it is and then I'll do it inverted. Let's see what it looks like every ½ inch, and then I might push that to an extreme. I might have to do this in belts. just for the amount of space that I have. I don't know if I have any clear packing tape, because this would be better with clear packing tape. Alright, I am going to try and find some clear packing tape, and this will make this so much easier. Or this clear whatever tape. I don't know where to find it. Couldn't find clear packing tape in the amount of time that I feel comfortable being away from my computer. Yeah, so it's a little bit more even horizontally. Anyway, so just gonna tape these guys. It's not the best way to do this, but I'm figuring it out as I'm going. And the sort of analog element of this will make for a more interesting end result. And it visually is a lot more interesting to see take place. Just these guys. I really should cut off all these ends. Just have to do it later. And don't want to lift this too much, because this is just a laser print, so it's toner that's been placed on top of it. It's not ink, and so it's just on the surface of the paper. It's not soaked into the fibers, which means that the more it gets handled, the more likely the toner is to sort of fall off, especially if you take tape to it, something sticky. This is going to look interesting on time lapse later. It's a little bit slow moving currently, which I appreciate you watching. If you are it's also interesting to see it separated that way, but I'd like to have a little bit more consistency, so it's kind of a little out of order. Oop. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Okay. 5, 4, 3. Should have approached this a little bit different, but that's okay. Live and learn. So now, conceivably, it would be this sort of signal, but placed on a set grid. So I'm going to have to take a minute to chop off all of these little bits that I left here, all these white sections. These are large enough to where I should be able to identify the order, since there are only like 4 of them. This is just so I have a direct contact with the edge later on. If you are using a sharp blade like this, be careful. It's very easy to cut yourself. I find that I'm far more likely to cut myself using this actually with a ruler and a tougher material. I cut off the tip of my index finger, not a terrible amount, but enough to bleed for a long time. Did that while trying to cut some chipboard. Some material that's like the back of a notebook or something. And if you have something you have to hold down the straight edge pretty hard and you pull the blade against it, there's pretty much anybody I know who's cut themselves badly with a X-Acto knife or sharp blade, straight edge sort of deal. It's been doing that exact thing and putting too much pressure and repeated cutting motion and just not paying attention to how with that added pressure you put you sort of push your finger over the edge and you're less aware of it, and then you cut and it's not great, and your fingertips bleed a lot. I might end up trying this as a scan as well because I think it might look interesting with all the sort of physical elements of it, not hiding any of the, not shortcomings, but the process visual process of it. Just cutting off these wide edges I should have cut off before. Any questions, thoughts, concerns? You can be concerned about me being mildly haphazard with how I'm approaching this cutting and how close my fingers are getting to the blade. I'm being aware. I have to use more tape later on when I'm doing some other elements. Fingers are going to have a lot of toner on them by the end of this. Typically, the faster something prints, the more likely it is to get on your fingers. Okay. Clear these guys out. And then more tape coming to connect the sections. Offset. Okay. Okay. I like saying KOR instead of what time is it, because it's a faster way. Not if I have to explain why I like it, but I enjoy it. Probably come across some issues as I move forward, but let's treat where the eyes are as the constant, which means I'm going to cut straight down here, reposition it over here. I will need to apply some pressure, so it's this line. Get things as lined up as possible. And this is a situation that it's more precarious about how you're going to end up potentially cutting your finger if you push it over that leading edge. So make sure it's pulled back, that pressure applied. Sharper blade also means you're less likely to drag unnecessarily. I'm going to tape this off on the back. Alright, there should be one more over, I guess. Alright, yonder. guess ultimately this might be a little bit easier than using packing tape just because it cuts easy or tears easily. Now the next section. Here's this bit. Now let's polish out this photocopy zine looking bit by putting paper onto it, tracing it out. It's going to be somewhat difficult for me to do just because of my ability to see things here. Really wish I had my light. Do I not have my light? Don't think I do. Do you have anything comparable? Anything that I could use as a weird makeshift light table? Do I have a piece of plexi that I could put a light under? Give me a moment. Let's get makeshift. So, this is incredibly hard to see if I'm looking without having any sort of light from below. All the light that I have in this room is from above. But I have this sheet of plexi, and I have these desktop lights that I can diffuse with paper, and okay, figuring this out. Don't want to put too much pressure on the light itself. Get to see sort of how the sausage is made. It's going to be super bright looking up here, so let's turn this down a little. It's got a little bit of heat going, I forgot about that bit. Keep this to the side. Put this on top. Let's get a little, I can just use this guy, diffuse it here. This would be so much better with just a regular old light table. And pump this up a little. And now I'll have to shift it a bit, but it's a lot easier to see. I don't know if I need this diffusion. Yeah, I don't. Okay. So I'm a little bit darker, but this paper's better. Okay. Now let's take this down. It's a bit blown out for you guys, but you'll just see the work as it's happening, I guess. Bring my light table home. Okay. Figured something out. This would have been very annoying to try and figure out. I was drawing what? Okay, so let's just sort of cut off there. I know that that's sort of blown out looking at it, but I just can't see anything otherwise. Okay. Cut off or no? Zoom this out a little. See more of what's happening. Thanks, Rojas Martin. Hola, Uri Bubio? Uri? Maybe I said something terrible. I don't know. Better view of this once I finish outlining. Facing here, I think. Let me look at a version of this that's not cut up, so I'm getting confused. Okay. Okay. That's the hair separating out. Happens here. Goes out a bit. Hello, Talathum. Thank you. Talathum. It's chin. I need to make the chin and there. Okay, now I get to get back to a slightly more comfortable drawing situation. Now it's very bright in my face right now. Nice. That's good. Back there. Get my makeshift thing going here. Let's down just a little bit. Tighten this up a little. High chance of all the paper ripping here, or at least separating. So there's the cut up version. There. No, I had that. There's the outline. So now we're going to go back in with the chisel brush, 416. And fill in some of these dark spots. It's mostly going to be hair that I'm filling in. I just sort of gotta force a bit or explore things. A lot of the time I have stuff sort of running at the back of my head, or I've done some version of these in the past. A lot of things come from researching how things function, or just seeing something and exploring it further, and then thinking of how it might be reinterpreted or the concept applied to a different format. I need to draw that line. Conceptually, doesn't exist in that space. I need to be careful. Hola. Thank you. Animations just take a bit longer, but I enjoy them a lot. I'm trying not to take more than an hour and a half to do things on the weekend, especially this weekend. Because of the glasses. Okay. Just about done. Cover this with a thinner brush. I think that's all of it. Do need to find this. Pretty simple. Okay, so there's that one, which is based off of this, which is a cut up and repositioned version of this. And all of it is based off of, let's share so sweet, how CRT TV cathode ray tubes function. And if you are to offset that information, because it's presented in horizontal lines, if it gets offset for an image like this, it gets pushed in a direction and it circles back around. And so that's what this imagery is based off of. I'm going to scan both of these and then head out. While it's scanning, if you have any questions, please put them forward and I will try to answer them. Thank you, Elian. Okay, so image capture. Shared, show that guy. Now I need that at 4800. Let's do 600. Drop this into Live Designs 1010. Choose that. 10. 10. CRT illustration. Scan. I'm also going to have a little bit of cookies. These are little pain in the guys. I'm going to put that knife away. Okay, that one's scanned. Scan this one. Image. Okay. Okay. Browse. Desktop, Live Designs, 1010. Illustration. Okay, let's scale this way down. I'm gonna duplicate this. Yeah. I'll replace it with this guy. Forward. Okay. There you go. Thank you all for watching. Throw this down. It doesn't matter now. If you have any questions, concerns, thoughts, comments, etc., throw them out there. Otherwise, I will be heading out. Give you guys 30 odd seconds, give or take, and then I'll be heading on out of here. I'll be putting up shirts that are of this sort of stuff. You can look through other shirts that exist in my space. I think I'm going to do one of each of these. Wait, one of these guys and one of these guys. But otherwise, I'm going to head out. Thanks for watching. I got to go start some dinner things. Finish.